All right, in this explainer, we're going to break down the tactical playbook of Nailinit. Now, this is a new consumer brand that absolutely manufactured incredible momentum right out of the gate. We're going to look at exactly how they went from this massive, high-voltage launch all the way to securing their pre-seed funding, step by step. It's the biggest question every single founder asks, right? How do you launch a brand that investors just can't ignore? You might have a fantastic product, but how do you make enough noise, generate that kind of signal that forces them to pay attention? Well, Nailinit's story, it gives us a pretty powerful answer.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Here's what we've got on tap. First, how they built that initial buzz. Then we'll decode the actual investor thesis. After that, how they passed those tough investor tests. We'll look at where the money is going, and we'll wrap it all up with a tactical playbook that you can actually use.
So first up, a brand built on buzz. This is all about how Nailinit managed to manufacture a real moment. And here's the key thing to remember. They were creating these powerful signals long before they even thought about putting together a pitch deck. They didn't just launch a product, they literally engineered a cultural moment.
Okay, so when you look at their timeline, you realize the whole launch sequence was just perfectly calculated. It's a masterclass, really. It all started before the launch, with the founders themselves. Their backgrounds in venture building and influencer marketing gave them instant credibility. Then the launch party. This wasn't some boring press release, no way. It was an experience designed from the ground up to be shared. And this is so crucial. They immediately converted all that buzz into actual sales by being exactly where their customers are, on quick commerce platforms like Zepto and Blinkit.
And this is where the real genius of the launch comes in. Think about it. They didn't just go and blow their budget on a bunch of ads. Instead, they got their product into the hands of over 200 of the biggest creators and tastemakers. The event itself became the content engine. Every single one of those influencers turned into a marketing channel, blasting Nailinit out to millions of followers, all at the same time. It was just this massive, concentrated explosion of social proof. Okay, so all of that incredible buzz leads us directly into our second section, decoding the investor thesis. We've seen what they did, right? But now let's peel back the layers and figure out why. Why did it convince investors like Ruhas and Marshot VC to actually write a check? This quote from one of the fund managers really gets to the absolute heart of the opportunity. It's all about this. Investors saw a huge, and I mean huge, under-penetrated market. For most people, meal care meant these long, expensive salon visits, something you did occasionally. Nailit came in and pitched a total behavior shift, turning it from a service into a frequent fun-at-home product.
So you gotta understand, investors weren't just betting on a press-on nail company. They were buying into a much bigger thesis, and it was built on 4 key pillars. First, they were creating a whole new category. Second, they were riding this massive wave, this macro trend of convenience and self-expression. Third, their community-led model was just a super smart way to get customers without spending a ton of money. And fourth, and this is so critical at this early stage, was perfect founder market fit. This team was basically tailor-made for this exact opportunity.
Okay, so the thesis was rock solid. But of course, every investor's going to do their homework, right? They're going to kick the tires. And that brings us to our next part. Passing the investor test. How did Nailinit deal with those tough, inevitable questions, the red flags that always come up during due diligence? And here was the first major red flag, the first big question. Okay, guys, this launch was amazing, but was it just a flash in the pan, a one-time favor from all your influencer friends? Basically, how could Nailinit prove that this was a real, sustainable business and not just a one-off viral moment? And their answer? It was brilliant, because they had the data to back it all up. They could point to their sales on totally impersonal platforms like Amazon and Zepto and say, look, real, everyday customers are now actively searching for our brand and buying it. That's what showed true organic demand, totally separate from that initial launch party. All right, on to the second major red flag, competition. Let's be real. Press-on nails aren't exactly some kind of secret patented technology. So what was their defense? What was going to stop some huge company from just waltzing in, launching a copycat product, and absolutely crushing them? And this is where their answer was so powerful. They basically said, we're not selling a commodity product. We're building a cultural brand. See, a big corporation can easily copy a product, But what's incredibly hard, if not impossible to replicate, that's cultural relevance. That's an authentic connection with Gen Z. That was their moat. It wasn't the nail itself. It was the community and the culture they were building around it. So they passed the test. They overcame the red flags, and they secured the funding. Which leads us perfectly into our fourth section. Where is all that money going? Let's break down their growth plan, funded by that 2.5 to 3 crore pre-seed round. And you can see their thinking is just super strategic. A big chunk, 40%, is going right into expanding distribution, getting deeper into quick commerce, and beefing up their own website. Another 35% gets reinvested directly into their superpower, building that community and working with more creators. And the last 25%, that's all for product innovation, designing new collections and expanding the whole nail care line. It's just a really clear, focused plan for growth. All right, now for my favorite part, the really actionable stuff. We've dissected this entire case study, so now let's boil it all down into a concrete playbook, something you can actually use to try and replicate Nailinit's success. So here it is, the pre-seed launch and fundraising checklist, inspired by Nailinit. Step 1, build your founder market fit story. You have to answer the question, why are you the one to do this? Step 2, don't just launch, create a pop, a big, concentrated burst of attention. Step 3, turn your very first users into your marketing team. Step 4, be native to wherever your customers hang out. Go to them. Step 5, show smart distribution early and make sure your channels amplify what your brand is all about. And finally, step 6, frame the market. Don't just enter a category, create one. Look, if you take away just one single thing from all of this, let it be this. Before you go out and ask for money, you need to build an absolutely undeniable signal, a signal that proves you understand your customer better than anyone else on the planet. Nailin didn't have huge revenues, but they had that signal. Your job is to go find yours. And that really leaves us with one final thought, one question for you. Your signal, it doesn't have to be a massive, star-studded party. It could be a waitlist with 10,000 people for a product you haven't even built yet. It could be a viral video that cost you literally nothing to make. So you have to ask yourself, for what you're building, what is that one single signal that will prove to the world that you know your customer better than absolutely anyone else?